energy modality, energy healing modality. I'm going to go into a little bit of the science, but I want to spend a lot of attention on the actual application. So it's called tapping because we use the various acupuncture points. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's got some pretty cool stuff. So about me, for those of you who don't know, I'm a past life regression therapist. Been that for about a long time. And I've also studied tapping as the basic recipe years ago. The basic recipe is what we're going to do today. However, I've now upgraded into clinical application to be a clinical therapist with this. Clinical work, there's 48 levels above the basic recipe. So there's a lot that this can support in many ways. And I'm a searcher for truth, and this time of life, we all should be. So finding truth and navigating and discernment of truth. And part of that has been just like what works and what doesn't work, what's supportive in nature, what isn't supportive in nature. And then I'm a trauma survivor, and that's really hard to say out loud because nobody wants to draw attention from that. But when we've had challenging experiences, it feels very isolating and scary, and nobody wants to draw attention and come from a victim modality or mentality. However, trauma changes the way our brains work, and it bypasses critical thinking. And so we can't make decisions in a trauma state that's going to be healthy and supportive. We all try to find solutions by analyzing the problem. That's just kind of our natural design. We try to find the solution and we think about it more. Science shows it dysregulates our brain more, puts us in a more dysregulated state, and we can only find solutions that are equal to our emotional state. So if our emotional state's in a really stress response, an anxiety response, fear response, we're only going to find a solution that's equal to that. We're vibrational beings, and that's just part of the rules of playing. So emotional freedom technique also does tapping, but it's also called emotional acupuncture because we do tap on the points that are the meridians that are used in acupuncture. Acupuncture is a modality that's been used for 6,000 years. Chinese medicine knows that there's key points that connects through our entire body. We do have meridians, energy centers or energy currents of energy that run through both sides of the body. So when I go through this, you can use either side of the body, both sides of the body, and bounce between the two. So that's not going to be an issue either way. Stress reduction tool that combines elements of exposure therapy and cognitive shift with the acupressure. We do exposure therapy much like many other modalities because we want to acknowledge what is. We're given permission to acknowledge what is. When we do clinical work, we do a lot of techniques that give us a sense of safety, distance from the problem, and we can compartmentalize from that instead of feeling like this sense of overwhelm where it's just taking over so much of our attention and we tend to get a little bit overwhelmed with our system. This involves gentle tapping on these specific points while focusing on the emotional memories and using cognitive shifts or cognitive statements. So we want to introduce and look at, come back into safety. Introduce, look at, come back into safety. What we're trying to do is we're signaling the amygdala a sense of safety, and we're giving it an opportunity to shift the perception. So two people can have the same experience. One person can come out of that unscathed. Another person can come out of that incredibly traumatized. So what sets that separate? One, their perception. And two, one of the things that affects that is their understanding of whether that is going to, if they can't escape from that kind of thing. And three, it overwhelms their system. And when we overwhelm our system to such a level that we can't handle it, our bodies, depending on what your trauma reaction, that run, hide, fawn, any of those kind of things, whatever your trauma response typically is, your body will store appropriately to meet that. So here's some noteworthy aspects about EFT. very simple, and it doesn't do any harm to the body, of course. It's simple, anyone can learn it, even children. Working with children is really an amazing experience. Children respond very, very quickly. They can shift. I was doing some tapping with our granddaughter. We were at a playground, and there was this really high structure that she wanted to go down this slide. She's only 3 years old. Her older sister was able to do it, and she's like, it's so scary, it's so scary. So I was doing some tapping on it and saying, even though it's so scary, I can love myself anyway. And we did maybe about 2 minutes of that, and she scaled it, and she was so excited. I can do it, I can do it. Those simple shifts happen so beautifully with children. It adapts to any situation, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more. We can use it under just about any circumstance. It's fast at relieving stress and anxiety, and it doesn't require any equipment. You don't have to purchase anything. You don't have to be a membership for anything. This is something that's very doable. It will work even if you're skeptical, because you're sending a signal to your brain. So you don't have to believe whether it works or not. Evidence is going to be your own experience, and you can do it anywhere. And I'll give an example about when I would have a trauma response, and one of those would be being at a restaurant. For those who know me, I have severe allergies, and one of them is gluten. So when everybody's passing bread and handing it over my plate, I start to panic. And I don't want to draw attention to that, and I don't want to make anybody else wrong or bad. However, my inside, I may look like I'm normal. Inside, I'm just crawling out of my skin. And so I can very easily tap under the table and just calm my nervous system, and nobody has to know the better. So that's just one of those ways that we can integrate it into our everyday life. So downsides, you feel silly. If you're on an airplane or in a public space and you're tapping on all of these different points, somebody might think you're a little weird. Everybody's weird, so it's okay. You may struggle finding the exact words, and finding the exact words is not going to be the primary. So when we start this, focusing on your exact words it's more important that you focus on the emotion and the sensations in the body. So we're going to be doing a group session. A group session is going to be more global instead of specific for the individual. However, everybody's going to get some benefits either way. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so EFT helps with and supports depression and anxiety, chronic pain, trauma, PTSD, and CPTSD, cravings and addictions, fears and phobias, physical and emotional conditions, weight loss, limiting beliefs, and goal settings. So what do all of these have in common? Stress. All of them are a stress response to the body. Somebody could have a broken leg and think, why would I do tapping? My bone is broken. That tapping is not going to shift the bone. However, science and research shows 80% of that is actually an emotion that you're responding to. This emotion is like, oh, this is going to interrupt my life. I have a game plan for tomorrow. I don't have the money or the insurance to pay for this. I feel stupid because I made this, that I put myself in jeopardy. I'm getting older. So whatever your story is around that, that's what's really contributing to the pain. Anybody who experiences chronic pain will be aware that those symptoms tend to get heightened or worsened when we're under stress. And same thing when we're fatigued. Our bodies tend to feel a little bit more vulnerable. So that's just something, that's the umbrella, is the stress response. So how does it work? Tapping on these endpoints, we send that signal of safety to the brain. This is to our amygdala. I'm sure you know, amygdala is the fight or flight. And so it gets hijacked when somebody has a recurring brain loop. And so that stays in that heightened sense. We have two predominant states, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the system that's the space that we're in for digestion, for rest, recovery of health. and that healing potential, and the sympathetic nervous system is activated in the stress response. When we're in that sympathetic nervous system response, digestion is flooded out of the system because it's not the time to digest. Our limbs tend to get more tense because we're preparing to engage with the tiger in the cave. And so when we are in this stress response, it's not the time to heal, it's not the time to reproduce, it's not the time to digest, it's not the time to absorb nutrients, it's the time to live and survive. And that's your brain's only role. Your brain has one role, and that's to keep you alive. And so it does so, and will bypass all critical thinking. Reduces the stress response and the emotional intensity of that stress response, and changes the way the brain processes these emotional memories. When you have a perception about something and do some tapping around that, a cognitive shift ultimately happens, and that's what's really beautiful, to have that experience and to perceive things differently. So, as I mentioned, this clinical EFT is clinically, it is, out of all healing modalities, all energy modalities, including Psych K and EMDR, and all of these are wonderful. They're fantastic. However, because of specific people who really wanted this to be evidence-based, this is the most clinically evidence-based modality in the world. And it's been really a beautiful opportunity. Some of the areas that it was taken to were war-torn areas, such as Rwanda, Ukraine, any of these areas where there was a lot of war or trauma, and or to veterans who came back from war. Many of you know PTSD was originally assigned to soldiers who came back from war, and it didn't take very long before we realized this is a humanity issue, not just somebody who's in a war-torn area. And findings exhibit the significant reduction in anxiety and PTSD symptoms. What they found is 6 one-hour sessions significantly changed the way that individual responded to stress. So some of the evidence is, they did this one research that I'll share, that they did three control studies here. So one group, they just had them sit and read flip through a magazine. Another one, they did this tapping, and another one, they did talk therapy. I'm not a fan of talk therapy for a number of reasons. One of them specifically is we're introducing ourselves to a trauma response. Anybody who's had a therapy session and is trying to bring stuff up, you feel much more dysregulated by the time you leave the session than when you started, and it feels exhausted. You're like, oh, I pulled that out. However, you didn't process it in the brain. It's just like talking about it with a girlfriend. If it's something that you have a behavior modification and want support with that, talk therapy can be a good thing. However, research shows even reading a magazine causes a cortisol spike by approximately 2 to 7%, depending on what you're reading. Talk therapy actually increased the cortisol response about 18%, and EFT decreased it by between 60 and 80%. So that's amazing. What's also phenomenal about that is they followed up with these individuals later in the day, 2 weeks, 6 months, and 3 years later, and they still have it was sustained. So that's what's really beautiful, is once you get to a point where something's released, it can be sustained. So finding, this is just one aspect. Cancer is a big deal in this world, and it's becoming more of a big deal. I'm working with a client right now with cancer, and she's had some amazing results. So it's just an example, using tapping for cancer, you can address the stress response from the diagnosis and treatment. We know that having that kind of announcement can really that sense of shock can run through the body, and if you don't have an advocate there, again, you're like, I don't even remember what the doctor said after that moment. After that moment, like, everything stood still. And so having an advocate would be very helpful during those times. Calms the nervous system before and after the doctor visits or procedures. This client that I was working with, we did a tapping session because she had a new MRI coming, and she's very claustrophobic, and having to sit in that area for an hour was really causing her some stress. She's like, I can do this, it's only an hour. By the time she finished, she was like, and she texted me after and she said it went really well, so that was great. Supports processing of fear, anger, and sadness. All of those are appropriate sensations for having some kind of diagnosis. It's a reduction of the chronic pain and overcomes resistance to procedures, changes in support. Many people, especially if you're in the healing field, if you get told that chemotherapy or radiation is your only viable option, if you have resistance to that and you know that chemotherapy is, its purpose is to kill cells, and we have this awareness, then you may have some resistance to a treatment. Or if they say we have to cut that out, and you're like, I really love my breasts, I don't want to let them go. And it's even if they have cancer, you just like, this is my identity. So as an example, it's fair to have those kind of things. And of course, processing of grief and loss, energy, lifestyle, your hair, any of those kind of things. So that can all be very supportive for this. So mistakes people make. Number one is not using it. We have this tool, it's successful. Even I'm like, oh gosh, I know I should be tapping, but I don't want to sit for 5 minutes. One of the things that we're going to be working with today, this is, like I said, we're going to be speaking global, so this means it's going to be applicable to all of us. Working one-on-one with a practitioner is much more supportive because it can be specific. We can direct directly to your specific incident. We're not going to really be able to do that today. But also another thing is not addressing all of the aspects of the event. Aspects are the sensory response. So an example, if there was a car accident and we want to just like, oh, this car accident, I had this car accident and all that, the car accident. We may not notice this as shift in our nervous system, but then you're like, okay, well, what are the sensory response? The impact of the seatbelt, the ambulance lights, the sound of somebody screaming, the screeching tires, the taste of blood in my mouth. We start tapping on all of those sensory things, and then we give ourselves permission to let it go. Not tapping long enough. A good tapping session should be at least 15 minutes. A really extensive one where we just keep peeling the onion can go much longer than that. More than an hour is an hour. My sessions tend to be about an hour and a half, but that's including some talking. So, and then not writing down and working on it. Also, I just want to know if your phones are on, please silence them so it doesn't get distracted. There's notebooks here, again, for anybody who came in late, because I want you to write down your own experience, because I want you to, your focus is going to be on you. So we're not only going to write down our experience, but the emotional intensity. So this is just out of my book. These are the tapping points. I'm going to go through all of those. But we have 400 acupoints in the human body. Like I mentioned before, they all go to the amygdala. They run through these meridians. These meridians have an end point, and that's where we're touching base. We focus on these primary 9 points, which is the side of the hand, and then these various points. I'll just go through those in just a second. And the key is to hit the exact points. Now, as I go through this, you're going to see that learning about EFT takes about 5 minutes. It really is that simple. Mastering EFT can take a lifetime, because there's nuances for sure, and understanding that. And so there's a lot of YouTube videos out there, and somebody takes a class and they notice a significant change, and then they post a YouTube video or something about that. Well, then they're like clear off in a weird place, and you're like, what? That's not accurate at all. So the goal is to stay as specific as possible on the exact point. So we're going to start with this before we get any further. Karate chop point is the side of the hand. It's this fleshy side of the hand. This is the starting point that we will always start. And I'm going to have you start on this tag side of the hand when you start accessing stuff. This is a great way to access memories, to access emotions, drop it into the body. It's also supportive when we need to have a psychological reversal, which that means for somebody who has been searching for so long and just wants to get to the other side of something, and they think this is never going to happen to me. EFT works for everybody but me. I'm the special person. So this kind of thing helps that re-switching of the brain. So this is really, really important. From here, take your thumbs, place them on the top of where your ears are, take your pointer fingers, and where they meet on the top of your head. Down, this is the crown point. You want to just make sure you hit that. Moving on to the next, the top of the eye is where the eyebrow meets the top of the nose bone. So that we want to stay on the bone. So again, you can do either or, doesn't matter. So that's the eyebrow point. Side of the eye is where we stay on that bone, and we're going to go right to where the crease right there is the eye. That's the side of the eye. Under eye is right where the pupil, right above below the pupil, again on that bone. We want to stay on the bone. Don't wander around. None of those are going to be supportive. So stay right there on that bone. Then we move to the nose, under the nose, and so this is going to be right on the philtrum between the nose and the upper lip, right on that point. This is the, under the nose. Chin point is right where we have that little crease right here. That's our chin point. Collarbone point, find your collarbone right here. Go down about 1 inch and in about 1 inch and massage that. Because this is where we store a lot of energy. Most people it's pretty tender. So give that a little bit of extra love. There's plenty of extra points. These are ones we're going to focus on. And then for women, it's the brow line, approximately 4 inches below the armpit. So under the arm, this is the under the arm point. Tapping right there. That's a round. That's 1 round. So, see, doable, right? We can all do that. So, SUD levels. I'm going to ask you about your SUD levels. SUD levels are the subjective units of distress. We measure this from a 0 to 10 scale. 0 means it has 0 charge in my life. It means nothing. So when I say, how do you feel about my orange water bottle? Nobody cares. So that would be a 0. That would be a 0. How do you feel about the loved one that passed over? How does that feel in your body? Oh, So that could be as high as a 10. The reason why we measure this is we want to see movement, because anybody who's given birth, and you think, I will never do this again, and then you do, because we forget. It's a protective mechanism, so we forget how we felt about it. Somebody could be doing these tapping sessions and like, I was fine. Like, started at a 10, so where are we on that? So one of the things that you may note is anxiety may be a 6 when we start. And again, this is subjective because it's an intuitive thing. There isn't a right or wrong. This is your own measurement, just to notice if you shift on the scale. If it goes up, it's because you remembered another memory and it's layered. And so you may have a little bit of intensity, but ideally towards the end, we're going to drop that down. Start thinking about what you want to work on. I'm going to suggest do not think of something that's a high intensity, above a 6. And I'm going to go into more of that, but just let that percolate in your brain. So borrowing benefits. This is what's so great about group tapping and something why you can do this on watching a YouTube thing. So borrowing benefits, we have what's called mirror neurons, and we mimic others' experiences. I do Chinese face reading, that's another modality, but we micro shift into a facial expression that somebody else has. That's our way that we create empathy. And on a side note, people who have had Botox or any kind of procedure that blocks your nerves from responding like that, empathy level goes down. So that's just a little caveat, but we mimic these kind of things, and so when we notice a diminishing in somebody else, it can cause that diminishment in ourselves. And it's just like when we observe an experience on a movie, it can dysregulate us, and we're not being chased by a train saw, but we're watching somebody else have that, and it can upregulate our nervous system response. So studies showed the significant improvement while observing others, and the thing that I want to push down here for you is to make sure you focus on your own experience, because you're here to have you. Sorry. Okay, flooding. I will say I'm not the person who is going to flood, but I am the person who has flooded many times in trainings, and like, oh. So what is flooding? When we have this emotional response, what we're doing is all of a sudden we're tapping on something about, I was in the grocery store and I was trying to put my cart in by my car, and somebody pushed my cart, and oh, they were really cruel, and he kind of yelled at me and all of that kind of stuff. So you're feeling that kind of dysregulation. We're tapping all of that. And then all of a sudden your brain went, holy cow. I remember when I was 15 and this lady was like, and another student was really mean to me, and she yelled at me in front of all of my peers. Your attention shifted to that. And all of a sudden this trauma capsule gets released. Children often will create what's called the trauma capsule. This is where we encapsulate an experience to protect safety. And so sometimes that can get activated. It's okay if it gets activated. This is a safe place to do that. So I'm sharing with you, if this happens, I'm not planning on it, but I want you to be prepared. If it happens, keep tapping. Just keep tapping. Stay on the side of the hand and breathe. Just stay with us. My instinct is to run. So I'll be honest, when I'm flooding, I'm like, I gotta get the freak out of here. I don't want anybody to look at me. I don't want to draw attention. Let me get out of here. It doesn't feel safe. But we're gonna just stay right here, staying on the side of the hand. Keep your attention in this present moment, and just keep repeating, in this moment, I'm safe. In this moment, I am safe. And this is a great experience when we start feeling a dysregulation. And just have awareness of your feet and your seat. So just ground yourself right here in the present moment, knowing that this is a safe moment. So expressing the negative, anybody who's done law of attraction will first say, I don't want to create more of that. I don't want to draw more of that to me. Law of attraction is rainbows and butterflies. I'm going to focus on all the money I can make and the love that I have, and I'm going to focus on this abundance in all things for my life. And your subconscious mind is like, uh-huh. And so when we focus on the positive before the negative, our brains are like, no, sister, not even a chance I'm going to let that come into your life. You have some work to do. So expressing the negative is just like when you want to clean the storage room. You got to turn on the light. You got to look at what's there in order to clean it out. So anything you're going to be presented with already exists. So we're not drawing more to you. This is indeed what's the truth in the moment, and you will naturally go to the positive once it gets released. So it's awareness. So the basic steps are, I'm going to go through this, dropping your attention into the body. We identify the physical and the emotion sensations. We want to give it as much voice as possible. Thank you for joining us. And then we want to rate that intensity with a sub-level, and we're going to create a setup statement and then tap through those points and then just check in. So I'm going to do this with you. Like I said, we're all doing this together. That's why I have my chair. I'm going to take a drink of water. If you have water, take a drink because it's really good. If not, then that's okay. So I'm going to have a seat. And I want to go through a couple of guidelines before we start here. Everybody have pen and paper, correct? If not, please ask somebody next to you. And do we have any questions? Does anybody have any questions before we begin? Hi. Yeah.
I do. I have dabbled in tapping just a little bit, and made myself a little diagram of the order, but I had the order incorrect, and so the karate chop is number 1. Right?
Yeah, but you know what? Order doesn't matter.
Okay, well that's
my question.
Yeah.
Does order matter?
No.
Okay, awesome.
No. No, it's congruent, so it's easy to remember in that kind of way. When I first learned, I actually started here and ended here. And so just in the training that I have, they shifted that. It doesn't matter. And
but as long as you access those points.
Yeah, and it's not necessary. Each point does have a specific reason why we hit those points. So those points tend to have the biggest umbrella of support. However, you know, these ones help with cognitive shift. There's these that help with kidney and bladder. There's ones that help with digestion. So each one of those, we're going to be supportive for each one of those potential experiences. However, you can just stay on the side of the hand. You can stay on the collarbone point. A lot of times I'll have, when I'm talking with somebody, I just say,
I'm a stinker for detail, so to me, this is really interesting to know the how and why.
Yeah.
But that's good to know that
Yeah,
we can
they
just
all-
go with our intuition.
It would take us much longer to go into all of
Right.
that, so
Okay.
that's why I didn't, and I don't want to give so much information that I lose anybody.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes, fantastic. We're going to work with anxiety today, and here's some guidelines. One, we want to have unconditional positive regard for everybody in the room. So, this is a supportive environment. This is a healing environment. This is a loving environment. So, keep that in mind. Also, again, this is going to be interactive. What you contribute to me is going to help the whole. You know, if you've ever been to like a conference, been to an Abraham Hicks kind of thing and got in the hot seat and somebody else you wanted to be in the hot seat so bad and then somebody else comes up, their issue gets addressed, you're like, oh, okay, that actually applies to me, applies to the whole kind of thing. This is the case too. Whatever you're going through, you're not alone. We're in this community together. We're all feeling one another's energy, and so it's really supportive. So just that agreement, we love and we support and we allow whatever happens for anybody. I'm not trying to create a fear porn here, really. But anything's possible. So what is so beautiful about tapping is, as I mentioned, we all try to analyze our way through the sensations. Science knows that trauma and emotions store in the body, not in our brain. So we try to find it here, and it's all then right down here. So think of this as a play place where we allow,
So it doesn't store in the brain, it stores in the body as disease? Does it come up as disease?
Not necessarily. It can manifest in that direction long term, but no, I don't want to like put a label on that. It stores as physical
disease, but illness.
Yes, it can store as tension. It can store as depending on the vibration of the emotion, will store in a different chakra or a different organ that's a vibrational match, typically. But for instance, I store anxiety in my neck and shoulders and chest, but other people might lower back, whatever, is kind of, and it could be, and it also, if there's an injury in a specific part of the body, that part of the body tends to have a little bit of weakness or vulnerability, so emotions can store there too. And it can happen as an impact kind of thing. And another thing, one other thing as we go through the tapping points, anybody who has had any level of assault, rape, or any kind of attack, hitting on these points may trigger that, and these impact points. And so if you come across that where something feels a little intense, just hold. Just hold. Breathe. Breathe. You're just getting the same impact. So, and we typically, for rules, 5 to 7 times, there's no rule. You can do as many times. This is intuitive, listening to your own body. If you're in an intensity, people like, you catch yourself like trying to hurry. I've been this person, I promise. But that's not supportive, because what we're doing is just reliving it. So just practice with the breath, slowing down the system, allowing your body to relax, dropping your attention into the body. So, okay, so again, start thinking about your own specific, ideally you want to go to a specific memory for yourself. You can write that down, what that memory is. Take a moment and just write down what are the sensations that you're feeling. I'm going to ask you just to kind of drop into the body, but we're going to take just a moment to write that down. So dropping your attention down into your body, tell your body, I'm giving permission. I'm giving my body a voice, allowing my brain to take a break, dropping down and thinking. And one thing, if you just like, I can't think it causes me anxiety, tap on the side of the hand. And just stay right here for just a moment. And you can even say, even though I have no idea where I am, I just know that I feel anxiety. Even though I know I've had anxiety in the past, I'm not feeling it right now, but I know something exists. Just stay there for a moment. Notice any sensations that come up, and acknowledge. And what's so fascinating is something may come up and your very first thing is this has nothing to do with what I'm applying it to. And I will be in the background saying, it has everything to do with what you're applying to. So it may seem so random. This doesn't make sense. Why am I even thinking of this individual? Write it down. Take a moment, write it down. Acknowledge, where do I feel it in my body? What is that sensation? And then allow yourself, what's below this anxiety? Is anxiety really, is that presenting, but is it layered? Fear, frustration, sadness. If you don't want to just focus on any of those, we can just think back at the last 4 years. Sheesh. Just think of the world. We're feeling the world's anxiety. Global. So just take a moment. Right.
Do you switch sides?
You can. Doesn't matter. Tapping, breathing. And then when you're ready, write some of that down. And if anybody feels inclined to share some of those sensations with me, feel free to call them out, because we're going to do this together. Like, where do you feel it in your body? Give me some words.
I thought of my dad passing away in 2012, and the sadness that I felt, and yet an overwhelming relief for him, because he died of cancer, so his body had gone to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you feel that in your body?
I feel it in my gut. Just that sensation.
What does it feel like? How would you describe that sensation?
In thinking of him, I feel overwhelming love in my heart, and yet my whole center is tightened up, because I know that he was going through so much pain before he died.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a beautiful example. Her father's passed away many years ago, and that charge is still there, still present. We can also have anxiety about future events, anticipatory events. And so you could also, if you can't think of something in the past, think about what's coming. We could look at 2024 and we're like, okay, please let this be on the other side, and it's not showing that it is. So what are we going to do about this? Anybody else? Yeah.
When I was young, I was abused. When I was younger, sexually abused and mentally. And so I feel it in like my head here and right here.
Okay.
Yeah. I think for me, I've been trying to keep it down for so many years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so not really understanding to like let it go, really.
Yeah. It doesn't feel safe to look at that. Our natural design is to run away from what scares us or hurts us. So looking at something that's painful, we want to shove it down and hide it. We want to run away from it, but it doesn't leave our body. And it becomes a tainted lens that we view all of life. And so thank you for sharing. Do you want to share any kind of color or texture? Does it feel, is there a temperature?
I just get like, when I talk about it, I get like kind of hot.
Mm-hmm.
I start to feel like I'm sweating a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like talking about it, like my voice gets kind of shaky.
Yeah,
And like at times I feel like I'm going to cry, even I don't want to cry.
yeah. Feels vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Anyone else?
I suffered a head concussion over there, Carrie. And my stress is forgetting stuff. So I'm already, stressed out about it. So I feel it here. Cortisol, I can feel it release in my body. I'm stressed out.
So do you want to add a color or a texture for any of those kind of, that fear of, do you think of if fear of forgetting? So obviously we know we're looking at the head, but where else? You said you felt it right here. say we don't know, we're just like that kind of stuff. So let's just be playful.
Forgetting something, or, you know, when the stress comes, then I feel like that's how come I have a belly ever since I hit my head, is that cortisol response to my thoughts. And so I tend to just let it, you know, not look at it really. I just move to the current moment and forgive myself for, because I'll put stuff that should be in the fridge in the cupboard.
Yeah, great. So what color would you assign that?
I don't know, yellow keeps coming up.
Okay. And if that yellow had a texture or a shape or a form, what would that be? This is good information for all of you.
Abrasive, I think.
Excuse me?
Abrasive?
Abrasive. Okay. Does that have a temperature?
Hot.
Yeah. When things are hot, they're current. And our brains are time travelers. When we say time heals all wounds, we know that isn't the case. Time gives us the ability to adapt to the wound, but it doesn't heal or remove. We create barriers and we navigate, and we become in a maladaptive state. So when it's hot, that's very, very current. What's really fascinating is that science indicates that 99% of all physical issues that we address today are related to some trauma before the age of 6. And there's a number of reasons why. One, we're in a very different brain state, that theta brainwave state. And this is really beautiful because we're accessing that subconscious mind. We're dropping from the critical thinking mind. When you're present in this kind of thing, you're not worried about your schedule later on. You're just being very present in this moment. So we're dropping the brainwave state down into this space. And it is the state that's, we're suggestive. And so when we have, you know, what our parents say is all input information. And when we're, even if you say, I had a really good childhood memory, my parents were loving and I felt supported and had great extended family. If you did, that's fantastic. But nobody came out of the world and came into an adult unscathed. And it's our perception of the experience. Again, we could have a time where we got dropped off to a friend's birthday party. And I mean, I have a memory of being at my cousin's birthday party and sitting in the back seat and my 2 aunts talking and them saying, one of them turns to the other, let's take all the kids to get ice cream, but let's just go drop off Vicky first. And I'm like, what the actual hell? I mean, I was a child remembering this and it was so painful. So being excluded and abandoned really is, you know, that rejection is really big for me. I feel those kind of things. And somebody else could have liked a big deal. But I'm like, but I wanted ice cream. I wanted ice cream too. You know, those kind of experiences. Or, you know, your mom may have been late getting you to school, picking you up from school kind of thing, and the teacher makes a little side comment. You just feel like, oh, your mom's always late. And, you know, even though she did everything she could and got caught up at work kind of thing, you internalize abandonment. You internalize, why am I not worthy enough? You internalize all of those kind of emotions. So it does have some kind of relation. So don't be surprised for any of that come up. All right, Jana, share with me.
I'm just going through all the different emotions and situations. Interesting enough, it was before I was born. So I was in utero, and my mother had a bad heart, and so my father was very afraid that she would live through my birth, and so they wanted to abort me. And so for the whole 9 months, I heard, she's not worth it. She's not worth your life, and all these things. And the same goes, and I found, just as we were tapping, oh, that's been string off in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy.
It's worthiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Where does that land in your body?
my gut.
Yeah. What color is it?
It's a brown,
Texture?
purple,
Texture?
color. And the texture is rough.
Is that form?
I'm not coming up with a form.
No, all right, okay, that doesn't matter, it's okay. There isn't a right or wrong answer. So, take a moment, write down what your intensity level is. Does anybody want to share what their level of intensity with anxiety is?
10.
Probably
All
a
right,
7.
like, yeah.
7 or 8.
Okay, all right. So, all right, we're gonna set your book down for just a moment. Dropping into, we're just gonna do a little bit of grounding first. So close your eyes, put your feet on the ground. Take a deep breath. Just have awareness of your body. Feeling your body. Again, we're just gonna give your brain a break. It overthinks. Just, oh, this beautiful body. And I want you to consciously relax your tongue on the floor of the mouth. When somebody's in a trauma response, our tongue will shift. So you can stretch it a little bit and drop your tongue on the floor of the mouth. Place one hand over your heart, the other one over your belly. Just intentionally send love. It's a beautiful body. I'm just going to allow this tension to leave my body. Focusing on this beautiful heart space. And silently repeat after me. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. Notice how this feels in your body. Anything that comes up. Now imagine someone that you love so much. Could be someone who's crossed over, could be somebody, a child, spouse, friend, could even be a pet. Something that you love so much. Just know that energy has no bounds. So extend your attention to that individual. Maybe see them sitting beside you, support. And repeat after me silently. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. And notice how that feels in your body. And then shifting your attention to every beautiful being in this room. The love, the search for healing, the connection, the human journey. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be at peace. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes. Just kind of focus on something in the room. And did you notice anything shifting just in that, just that grounding? Any shifts?
I just felt an overwhelming sense of peace.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Okay, so I'm going to say everything. You're going to follow along. Repeat exactly what I say if you want. If it doesn't land, shift it to your own language. So again, we're going to stay a little global. We're not going to go really specific. It doesn't matter. Again, how, which direction, but I'm just gonna follow in the natural order. And then we're just gonna start on the side of the hand. We're doing a setup statement, and so we're gonna repeat this 3 times. Again, we're just drawing attention to this. We're just acknowledging what is. And we stay on the karate chop point. So we do exposure therapy, like I mentioned. We're gonna just say, even though I have this thing going on, I'm gonna accept myself anyway, because we're offering an opportunity to have a cognitive shift. Taking a deep breath. And you're going to repeat quietly inside. Even though I have this anxiety, and it's uncomfortable around everybody, because I'm kind of nervous, I'm going to respond inappropriately. I don't want anybody to notice me. But I have this anxiety. This anxiety in my body. I feel it. And I love and accept myself anyway. Just want to check in by saying I love and accept myself anyway. Does that land for everybody? If not, you can say I'm open to loving myself. All this anxiety, this constriction, this tension. I wish I didn't feel this way. I don't want to feel anxiety, but I do. I acknowledge that this exists and that I'm human. And I give myself permission to just see it. And I am open to expanding my awareness and letting it all go. I need to feel safe to let it go. I want to feel safe. And when I feel this, I don't feel safe. I'm acknowledging my body. I'm acknowledging everything that it's feeling. Taking all of this in. And loving myself so much for its willingness to show up today. Moving on to the top of the head. I showed up today. I may have had resistance to showing up. May have been excited to show up. Learning something new. What if healing can be this easy? What if it's not? What if I'm just going to remember this trauma and now it's going to stay with me? I'm scared about that. I don't want other people to see me struggle. I'm not comfortable looking at these sensations. Because I spent my whole life running from them. I see that's normal. But I don't want to be normal. I feel this anxiety. I feel it in my chest, like a vice grip. It's tightness. Feel it in my gut. Like chaos. Feel it in my head. challenging things in the past scare me. Acknowledging things in the past scare me. I wish bad things didn't happen. But here we are. This anxiety. Ugh, I just hate feeling this way. It locks me in the past. And it limits me from moving forward. What if this is part of my what if this is part of my identity? What if this is my story? How do other people see me with this? All this anxiety. My head, tightness. Oh, my chest, it just feels so tight. My heart beats out of my chest. My gut and solar plexus. Even my muscles feel tight. And my body aches. And I'm tired. I'm tired of looking at things that hurt. I just want them to go away. What if they can't? What if it really is that easy? Anxiety scares me. I don't like it. It's tightness in my head. My chest. Solar plexus. That tightness in my gut. All of this anxiety. Giving me the voice. Just take a deep breath. Anybody want to share anything? Any shifts? Memories, sensations? Look at your original SUD level, your intensity level.
You said, what if this is part of my story? That hit me. And then I'm pretty calm today, but when we were doing it, my legs kind of started to just jerk, like, okay, I want to go. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, I'm feeling really joyful today, but yeah, I just kept like feeling little twitches.
I'm a runner too, that's my
Yeah.
response too.
Same. I'm a runner too. I'm
Uh-huh,
like, nope.
Runners unite.
Like I felt it too. Like, but my body's like, Nick, go. Like,
Yeah.
Check in on the color, texture, the sensations. Anybody have any shifts? Come on, Cheryl, spit it out.
Through the process, I just felt like stress drain out down through the bottom of my feet. And I feel much more calm and settled.
Amy?
I just want to get up and dance.
I mean, that's her natural inclination anyway. That's no indication that tapping's working. I'm teasing.
Yeah, I'm at that stage that I'm just like, I think I've become more aware of who I am. I don't need someone else to tell me who I am. I know who I am. And I just realized, you know, with my granddaughter, dropping her off, I shifted focus. I think you kind of live through your grandkids what you wish you would have done with your own kids. So this morning when I was dropping her off, I was looking in the rearview mirror and I started saying, "Okay, Blakely, you need to repeat after me, Ma." I went, "I am amazing," and she repeated it. So, you know, I want to reflect what I wish I would have done with my kids. You know, I am smart, I am strong, I am enough, I can do hard things. And even just reflecting on me, I've had to come to realize I am enough. I am strong, and I can do hard things. And that's why I love to dance, because it just relieves all of everything else. I really am not, you know me, I'm really not an anxiety person. But I
But you live around all of us who are.
Yeah. And I think that's just like with my daughters. I don't know what it is with my daughters, but this will help me help my daughters. Because my daughters are really, I'm like going, sometimes I'm like, okay, calm down, like what are you feeling, you know, when you're having this, you know? And it's just that their minds are just going a million miles per hour thinking about what other people think.
Yeah.
And I says, it doesn't matter what they think. I says it matters what your family thinks. Because your family's always got you. Your friends will come and go, but your family is the main thing. They will always have your back, no matter what.
Those of you with a 10, did any of that drop?
My anxiety is like, I never thought I had anxiety because I went through the world like I let it go, like armor.
Yeah.
And I have my own family. I've been married going on 9 years, and like I've seen the struggle that my wife go through. So I always try to be armor for her and push my stuff to the side. And now that I have my son, a lot of stuff comes up from my past when I was a young kid. So I look at him like, man, I don't want my son to go through what I went through. So speaking of anxiety, I think my anxiety is through the roof. Like a lot of the feelings that I kept down are like coming up way more now than I've ever thought.
So what's your level now?
I just passed, like I think it's like a 10 now.
Excuse me?
It's at a 10, honestly, because
Still 10, yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm so used to keeping my emotions and everything down and being so much for everybody. So like
That you don't give yourself permission to think of you.
Mm-hmm. I don't give myself permission to think of me. I'm always thinking about my wife, my kids, everybody else before me, for sure.
Yeah, you can see that sometimes it comes up. We're going to keep doing a couple of rounds, but Jana, yours changed it?
I know, I think I have a lot of problems.
Yeah, good. Thank you for being vulnerable, everyone. I really do appreciate it, and that's why we want to really create a safe place here. Did anybody's go up?
Yeah, mine went up. I was at a 7, then it went to 10.
Oh, 10.
I was at a 7, then it went to 10 for sure.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, new memories come up, and you're like, whoa, wait, I haven't
it's
looked
like
at this for a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely like, whoa. It's like, whoa. I mean, I've been married since I was 20. I'm not 30 yet. So it's like, well, I feel like this forever, Just talked to my wife last night. It's like, I just want different things for us, especially for our kids. But I think the more of the focus came in when my son was born. It's like, I have 2 daughters, and then like having a son is like different.
Yeah. Especially
when like I'm a man, I'm a man. So it's like seeing him, it's like definitely brings up a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, it's okay.
Thank you. Did anybody's anxiety disappear?
I don't know, you're sweating.
Oh, see, this is a hot topic. All right. We're going to go to the top of the head. Oh, just looking at all of this. My body feels safe, and now it's showing all the signs of anxiety. Years of putting myself on the back burner. The world is scary right now. There's so much uncertainty. Housing costs and food expenses have risen. My paycheck's exactly the same.
So that.
I worry about money. I worry about my family. And no matter what I feel about this pandemic, somebody next to me feels different. The world doesn't feel safe. Politics don't feel safe. And I've lost someone that I love. And that makes me sad. I've lost a part of me. I wish I could just run from all of this. I'm really trying with my business. I want to make positive impact on my life. I try a little bit, and I go back to those same behaviors. Scrolling on social media. Numbing with alcohol, sugar, television. Always trying to numb the pain. Sometimes I just want to stomp my feet and yell. I have to maintain social grace. I don't want to. I just want to be out of pain. This anxiety is really hard on me. It's hard admitting it. It's hard acknowledging it. So I try with brute force just to overcome it. And then I fail. And then I shame spiral. I wonder if I'm even worthy of healing. I wonder if I really love myself as much as I claim. I hurt. This tightness and constriction in my muscles. It hurts. And it's keeping me up at night. And it's limiting my activities. And I just want to sit on the couch, binge Netflix, and forget pain. So I'm just going to have you stay on the collarbone point for a minute, closing your eyes. that little child, that child self. Wanted dad's love. Wanted to be accepted at school. Wanted to feel special but didn't. And where do you see that child version? How old is he or she? Do they acknowledge you? What would you like to say to them? What do you wish somebody would have said to you? And if your child self feels worthy, ready, bring that child self to your heart and give them a big hug. Repeating, oh sweetheart, your life isn't easy. There's so many things that hurt and are scary. And that doesn't end. Maybe your world's abandoned you. Maybe I've abandoned you. But I want you to know right now, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to give you a voice. And I want you to remember how beautiful, how special, and how sacred you are. You deserve love. And I want you to remember that. And then just listen if this child self has anything else to say. Maybe that child self wants to sit on your lap. Maybe they want to go along and go play. Just give one more hug. You say, we're going to do this together. We're going to heal. And we're going to be worthy right here, right now. Allowing that child self to dissipate. We're going to go back to the side of the hand. I can't stress myself to a solution. Because boy, if I could, I would have found it. What if I just chose peace instead? I'm open to inspiration. I don't need to force my life. I don't need to force my body. What if all I need to do is love myself more? And what if all of this was just an opportunity to do that? What if I'm enough? What if I'm worthy enough? Smart enough? Handsome enough? Beautiful enough? Right here. Right now. Going to the top of the head. Whew, anxiety. The human condition. I wish I didn't experience it. But I have more tools now. And I think I'm going to use them. Because I'm worth it. There's problems in the world, and I acknowledge it. I don't have to store them in my body. Just giving it a voice. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of peace. And I'm worthy of letting all of this go. Just letting it all go. Letting my belly relax. Letting my breathing to regulate. I don't need to numb myself in pain. It's just a habit. And I can create different ones that are more loving to me. Letting my chest relax. The tension in my head. Letting it all go. And as we're sitting right here, we're going to stay on this collarbone point, and I want you to just visualize a beautiful beam of light. And whatever your version is of your higher power, guardian angel, loved one that has crossed over, Jesus, let one of them just be with you. Reminding you how beautiful and special you are, and how worthy you are to heal. This beautiful beam of light penetrating from the top of your head. Oh, healing all of that tension in the head, the busy thoughts. Moving down into the throat, chest, expanding love in the heart. Down into the belly, washing all of this tension out of the body, letting it all go, right here, right now. And take a deep breath. Ready, open your eyes. How's everybody doing?
I actually smiled.
Smiles are good. Smiles are good. Well, you all look better.